Testing 1, 2, 3. Are you there? Is anyone there? It's telling me I've got a weak connection. So hopefully you can see me. It says you're live. We're building an audience for you. All right. Well, I can wait. I'll wait till some of you guys come on board. No, there's a 25. It says 64. Does that mean there's six? Oh my God! There's some hearts. I'm hoping those are thumbs up and not thumbs down. Hey guys, how are you? Oh shit! Here come the messages. Hey guys. Yep, it's me. I'm looking a little bit like Grizzly Adams right now. This is what it looks like to get off of a year of touring. I've been having a great vacation since we got off the road. But I'll be honest, I've missed you guys. Man, it was so nice to be out on the road all year long, you know, getting to be face to face with you guys and playing our music. As you guys know, Sixxam really hasn't done much touring over the last 10 years. So this was a big year for us to get out, release 2 full-length records, and basically tour around the world. So it was a crazy busy year, and we are all 3 of us, well, actually, all of us, the crew, the touring band, everyone were enjoying some downtime and relaxing. And I think there's a beard competition going on, which, I don't know, I think I might be winning. I saw a picture of Dustin the other day, and he had a pretty impressive beard. And Nikki's trying for the whole beard thing, but I don't know how that's working out. We'll have to see. But anyways, thank you for joining me here today. I'm in my studio, Red Level 3 here in Los Angeles. This is actually where we wrote and recorded both of our records, Volume 1 and Volume 2, Prayers for the Damned and Prayers for the Blessed. All mostly right here in this room, and then there's a live room over there. Here, I'm going to move my... You can see in that other room, there's another room over there. There's a ton of guitars, a drum kit. But it's a pretty small studio, but this is where we do everything. And what I wanted to do today, since we have a single out right now called We Will Not Go Quietly, seems to be doing really well at radio. In fact, it's climbing the charts. It's very exciting for us. It's always exciting when you know, we are lucky enough to have songs get played on the radio. I think that, you know, it's very easy at this stage of a career to take some of that stuff for granted. You know, as far as getting songs played, being able to go out and do tours and stuff. But man, every single time we get to have our music on the radio, I'm just so grateful and so lucky. You know, really thankful for the support of all of the programmers at the radio stations, and especially for you guys for calling the radio stations and, you know, requesting Sixxam and keeping this thing alive. It's always very exciting, and we never ever take that for granted. So most of you that are logging in here know that I'm the lead singer of Sixxam, and probably a smaller handful of you know that I am also the producer of the band. And I also mix all of the Sixxam music as well. And I realize that I think that probably maybe a good deal of you don't know what that entails. I mean, you hear of people being producers and doing things, but I've realized in my discussions with not only professionals in the industry, but a lot of fans that people don't really understand what goes into that. What does it mean to produce a record? What does it mean to mix a record? So I've actually, about 6 months ago, I started this little web series called Fly on the Wall with James Michael, trying to break that process down and explain to you guys what goes into making a Sixxam record, not in such great detail that it's overwhelming and it just becomes, you know, too technical, but more in a very basic, you know, description of what it takes to take a song from that seed of an idea and eventually turn it into a song that gets played on the radio. So I'm going to walk you guys through that process a little bit today with our song We Will Not Go Quietly. And I hope that that will be an interesting thing for you guys to check out. And then afterwards, you know, I'll take a bunch of questions from you guys. I'll leave the session up so that we can, so that the questions can be about the song, maybe something in specific about the recording of it. If you want me to solo out certain tracks, you know, certain guitar tracks or Nikki's bass or vocals or anything like that, you know, we can do that as well, which is, I always find that really interesting. But then that's because I'm a studio geek. But anyway, so We Will Not Go Quietly. It's the first single off of our record, Prayers for the Blessed. And we actually released it a few months ago. We released it while we were on the road. And that was exciting because we had never played a brand new song that people didn't know live ever before. And because we were going to be shooting a video up in Canada for We Will Not Go Quietly, that meant that we had to practice that song, actually be able to perform it live, because we had the great Wayne Isham, just a fantastic video director, very, very famous and successful video director who was known for shooting many, many big rock and pop videos. We had him shoot the video for it, so we decided to actually shoot a live performance video. And we felt that was important because, as many of you know, Sixxam has been a band for almost 11 years now, but we have not really been a touring band until just this past couple of years. So what we wanted to do with a song like We Will Not Go Quietly is we wanted to create a video that really showed the fact that we have turned into a live touring band, just basically to alleviate any questions as to whether we were a real band or not, because I think that when you put 4 or 5 records out and don't tour, at some point people start to wonder, you know, are you guys a real band or are you just kind of a project? Well, we hopefully put all of those questions to rest this year because we toured our asses off. And I think we really brought it. But anyway, so we were up in Canada, and we chose, I believe it was Alberta, to shoot the video for it. So what that meant was a couple of days before that, we actually had to learn the song, learn how to play it live, and rehearse it a few times, and then play it live in front of an audience for the first time. So that was pretty nerve-wracking. But what was very exciting about that is that the song just went over so well live. I'll tell you this. I mean, you guys know songs like Life is Beautiful and Lies the Beautiful People and This Is Gonna Hurt. For those of you that have been with us for a while, you know a lot of our songs. And it's always kind of easy to tell which songs are going to go over well live when you're talking about songs that people know. But to play a song that somebody doesn't know is always a little bit nerve-wracking. And what was so gratifying for us is that from the very first time we played that song live, the audience reacted as though it was Life is Beautiful. There was such an energy, and that got us so excited about it, because you don't really know until you try it, until you get out on stage and give it a shot, how it's going to be received. So anyway, that was very exciting for us. However, what I hadn't thought about as a singer is that this song is freaking hard to sing. It's actually, the verses especially, you're kind of, it's almost a rap rock type of thing. There's a lot of very, very fast lyrics going on. Well, I hadn't thought about that. So we got out there. Now, also, we're up in Canada, so I think there's a little elevation as well. And we're getting off stage night after night going, man, I'm really tired. I just feel like it feels like we're in Denver. It feels like we're, up high in altitude where you kind of can't catch your breath. So every night we were getting off stage just absolutely exhausted. Well, that song just about killed me. And in fact, you can probably go on YouTube and look at some of our earlier performances of that song, of We Will Not Go Quietly, and you can just see the sheer terror in my face as I'm like thinking to myself, I'm not going to be able to catch my breath for this next verse. So it was tough getting that one up and going, just because it requires a lot of physical energy to perform that song. But anyway, I'm getting kind of off track here. Forgive me for that. This was going to be just kind of a short in and out Facebook Live, but I think we're going to be here for a bit, if that's okay with you guys. Anyway, so back to the production of this song, because I think that some of you, in fact, I know that some of you are curious as to what the process is like. So I'm going to try to explain that more or less generalized, but I'm also going to refer specifically to this song. The way that Sixxam usually operates as far as songwriting goes is that Nikki and DJ and myself will get in a room. Typically it'll be here, it'll be at DJ's house up in Vegas or out at Nikki's house, and we'll pick up a couple of acoustic guitars and just start jamming on some riffs. DJ's has so many amazing riffs. I mean, if you were to just, sit him down, hand him a guitar and say, play me something that you've never played before, he would instantly just start playing stuff. So to be able to have somebody like that in your creative process is a blessing. So we'll typically start off with a riff or something. With We Will Not Go Quietly, this song actually took on many different forms as we started developing it. We knew that we wanted to have a really aggressive rock song, so we knew that the beat was going to be an important part of this. So we had Dustin come into the studio and basically just set up a kit and had DJ just riffing on the riff, which ultimately became the main riff of the song. And then we found the tempo for it, and Dustin would start, pounding on the drums until we found a beat that really seemed to suit the song and suit the energy of it. And basically what we came up with here, I'll move this over here. I think you can see where I'm working here. Let me see if I can do this with my other hand so that you can see what I'm working on. So over here, you see all of those purple tracks there? Those are all drum tracks. And what I mean by that is what we do when we have a drum kit is, let's just say you have a 4-piece drum kit. You have a kick drum, a snare, tom-tom up on the kick drum, and another one down on the floor. Basically considered a 4-piece kit. Obviously, you need to have microphones on all of those. So you place different microphones in different places. I'm not going to get into the technical stuff, but ultimately, in the end, you end up getting a full drum performance, which sounds like this. Now, this is the drums for We Will Not Go Quietly right here. Should be. Let's see. I don't know how well you can hear that, but trust me when I tell you it's a badass sounding drum kit. That's Dustin playing the drums, and that's the opening beat for the song. So basically what you do when you're recording a record is you're ultimately going to be recording all of the different parts separately. And the reason that you do that is so that later on you can change the balances of things, so you're not stuck with everything being recorded at one time, so that your levels you have to commit to those levels right there and then. It's hard to know at the very beginning of a recording process what's going to be important in that recording by the end of it, and you'll see what I mean once I get into this a little bit. But anyway, so I just played to the drums there, and that beat is a really heavy, aggressive beat, but obviously by itself it doesn't sound like a complete song. So what we do then, after we've recorded the drums, is we will record just some basic guitars to add to that. And I'm going to pull in a few different guitar tracks here. These are all DJ, and right now I'm looking at, I think, 24, 26 guitar tracks. Now, they're not all playing at the same time, but the guitar parts themselves will sound something like this. God damn, he's a great guitar player. Anyway, so that's basically the basic rhythm guitars, all right? You then add those to the drums, or you add the drums back to that, and you got this. You get the picture. So basically what you're hearing is the original drum kit and then some rhythm guitars. You can start hearing that it's starting to sound probably a little bit familiar to you if you know the song, which I hope you do. But then what we start doing is we start layering things, or, you know, in the recording industry, it's basically called multi-track recording. We don't record everything at one time, as I said. We record things little by little. We keep adding layers to it. So let's just say we've got some drums down now. We've got some rhythm guitars. Well, that intro is starting to sound cool, but it doesn't really have enough elements to make it sound like a satisfying song. So let's add a few more things in here. I'm going to add a couple more of DJ's guitar parts and see if you can start hearing a little bit of a change. Pretty cool. But now I'm going to add the part that to me made this song. We were out on the road. We had kind of decided that this was going to be a single. I remember the day we were sitting in the back of the bus. It was the three of us, and we were listening to a rough mix of the song, and one of us said, I just feel like that intro needs something exciting to go over the top of that. So DJ came up with this insane guitar part that sounds like this. Hang on just a second here. It sounds like this. And you'll notice it right off the bat that it immediately starts sounding like a little bit more familiar. That's this part right here. Voila. All of a sudden you got your hook. That's the first hook of the song right there. So, what that sounds like with all of the rest of the guitars and the drums is this. Here we go. I'm soloing tracks out here, so you should be able to hear a lot of guitars here in a second. Here we go. So you can hear how that went from basically just drums to feeling pretty much like a rockin' song. But I love this whammy part here, this part that we were just listening to a second. Oh, before I forget, it's NAMM this weekend. If you don't know what NAMM is this music gear convention that happens once a year here in Los Angeles, and DJ's actually going to be there. He's going to be, let me see, I got it written down. He's going to be at the Morley guitar pedal booth tomorrow from 2 to 3:30. If you're there, please go say hey to him. DJ's so cool. He's very approachable. He'll talk with you. He'll take a picture with you, whatever it may be. He's such a cool guy. Just great to his fans, and also, as you all know, one of the greatest guitar players that's ever walked the face of the earth. I know that because I've had the pleasure of working with him for so many years. But if you don't know that, trust me when I tell you, he's amazing. He will also be at the Dean Markley Strings booth on Saturday at 4 o'clock. Oh, and our drummer Dustin, I think he just got in from Canada today. He is going to be at the Pearl Drums booth, and I believe the Sabian Cymbal booth on Saturday as well. So go try to hunt him down and say hello to him. I'm sure that they'd both love to see you there. Anyway, so back to this. So as you can see, we start layering things. So you start off with drums typically. Then once we've got some basic guitars down, then it's time for, you guessed it, Nicky's bass. So let me go to his bass track a second, and you can hear what that sounds like, just isolated out from everything. It's pretty cool. Very, very aggressive bass part here. Just gnarly. So what does that sound like with drums? It sounds like this. sound of rock and roll. I love it. All right, I'll bring the guitars back in here now. We're going to start listening to a little bit fuller arrangement here. Here we go. You ready? So what you're hearing there is basic rhythm tracks. Now we've got a lot of other elements. I mean, literally, there are probably 110 tracks on this song. 110 tracks, you might ask, what the heck do you need 110 tracks? Well, you don't, but when you can, you know, put every little instrument on its own separate track, those things can add up very quickly. So for instance, let's say you're listening and you think, this chorus should have a tambourine in it. Well, there's another track. This verse should have a little keyboard part. There's another track. It adds up very quickly. In fact, like here are some keyboard sounds that are in the song that you may not even know are there, and you're not even supposed to know they're there. They're just for kind of subtle support. A sound like this. Believe it or not, that's going on under the vocals in the chorus. So here's the chorus. I'm going to play a little bit, and then I'm going to solo out that keyboard part while the song is playing. There's all sorts of things like that going on in this production that you're not really supposed to hear, but if you mute it, or if you pull the fader down and turn it off, you would miss it, even though you didn't know it was there in the first place. That happens a lot. That happens a lot with vocals. A lot of times we will do what's called doubling the vocals. So for instance, when I'm singing, when I'm singing a verse, it's a little bit more intimate, and then when the chorus explodes, you've got to do something to make your voice really be competitive with all of these other instruments going on. So a lot of times we'll double it. That's a trick that's done, it's almost standard at this point, that on choruses and other parts of songs where you want the vocals to just jump out a little bit, I'll just sing it a couple of times and then line them up so that they work well together. If you want to know more about this kind of stuff, I highly recommend you check out my YouTube video series called Fly on the Wall with James Michael, because I will go into a little bit more detail about that, about how, about really dissecting a song and showing you how all of the elements work together. Sometimes I'll focus just on how I mix a song or what the process of mixing is. Anyway, let's move forward here. I'm going to go into the verse now. And I'm going to show you what the verse is like as far as just with the vocals. So the vocals on this song were tough because for any of you that know Sixxam music, I think that I don't really think of myself as a singer, but I have a distinctive sound as a vocalist, and that's something that I've developed over. That's something that any singer of a band really works for, is to find something about their voice that is unique, and then really try to enhance that. I've found that since in my opinion, I'm not really a trained singer, so my sound is much more based on just what comes out naturally, and it's kind of based on the imperfections of it. I never tune my vocals or anything like that. I tend to be able to sing pretty on key, but when I sing a little flat or a little bit sharp, that's part of my sound, and I prefer it that way. So I don't do a lot of fixing of my vocals. But anyway, back to this particular song. This was a tough one for me because I don't really normally sing in that rap rock type of style. In fact, in a way, I was kind of channeling Jacoby from Papa Roach. He's a good buddy of mine, and in my opinion, probably the best front man in rock and roll right now, or at least one of them. And I've just always loved his vocal stylings, and I actually produced one of the Papa Roach records, a record called The Connection, and so I've spent a lot of time with those guys. They're dear friends and such a talented band. But anyway, the reason I mentioned them is because this verse kind of reminds me a little bit of a Papa Roach type of vibe. It's definitely more aggressive than I normally sing. So let me solo out those vocals a second in this verse, and you can see how just different it was for me. Let's see here.
Heart attack, I see.
Okay.
Heart attack, I see the shock when you face it. We couldn't take it, so we got a little wasted. I'd really love to see the look on their face when you open your eyes, when you open your eyes. We run away, but who is gonna save us? The only people that you find are gonna slay us.
Okay, so that's my voice just by itself. Sounds weird. I mean, it sounds like me, I guess, but it needs some help. So what I do is sometimes I'll add an octave down. So if and I'm going to play that right now, and you can hear what that sounds like by itself.
Heart attack, I see the shock when you face it. We couldn't take it, so we got a little wasted. I'd really love to see the look on their face when you open your eyes, when you open your eyes.
So that sounds weird by itself too, but when you put those two together, like this.
It's like a heart attack, I see the shock when you face it. We couldn't take it, so we got a little wasted. I'd really love to see the look on their face when you open your eyes, when you open your eyes.
Sounds pretty cool. You know, it's weird, but it sounds cool. It sounds appropriate for the song when you have all of those aggressive guitars and drums going on. So with everything in there, it sounds like this. Okay, I'm going to jump around here a little bit because of my my ADD. But one of my favorite things about this verse is the guitar that DJ added to this, and that guitar part came way later. It was one of the last things we added to this song. I was just beating myself up. I was thinking something about this verse just doesn't sound right. I'd done all the doubling of the vocals. We got this killer bass part. The drums were just ripping, but there was something that just didn't hold my attention. So I remember the very day we were out on the road. We were in a hotel room. I had set up my little mobile rig, and I had asked DJ to come down to my room to just maybe try some guitar stuff out. And the very first thing that he started playing was this crazy riff during the verse. Let me see if I can find that. Sorry, it takes me a little bit of time to find everything because I got so many damn tracks here. Okay, so let's see here. Where is that? We'll find it. Here we go. Okay. The great thing about Facebook Live is we could just sit here all night and do this shit. We don't have any time restrictions, so. That part, that dun 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 dun, is just so cool. I'm gonna solo it out, and then I'm gonna play the song with everything, and you'll hear what it adds, and then I'll take it out. I just love DJ's guitar playing. So here it is with everything in. Isn't that cool? Can you hear that? Well, I'm looking at all these messages down here. Oh, you guys are just typing away, aren't you? Hey there. How's it going? Okay, so anyway, you can hear how all of these little elements just add up. One of my other favorite parts of this song is the pre-chorus. Bite down, you gotta blow it up, you gotta give it hell. I like that because of DJ's guitar part. Listen to what he does on the guitars here. It's just so beautiful and so unusual. To go from really heavy, aggressive, just nasty sounding rock guitars into this just gorgeous little guitar part here. Check this out. Here we go. Where's our clean guitars? Come on. Here we are. So that was the first thing that was written for that pre-chorus, and I just love that guitar part. I'm going to play it again. And I remember as soon as he did that, I heard everything becoming radiophonic, so I just kind of put my hand over my mouth, and I was like, check it out, I was like, you gotta give it up, you gotta give it hell, you gotta pull the plug, or you can run away, or you can kill the beast, or you can try to kill yourself. And it just had such a nasty, gnarly little, intimate moment right before that chorus explodes. Love that part of the song. So here's what it sounds like with everything going on during that part. But as you listen to it, if you can hear it, try to listen for those clean guitars going on, because they're just magical. Now, if you can't hear it, don't worry. Number one, you're listening through shitty phone microphone. But when you go back and listen to the song, or the next time you hear it on the radio, listen for these parts. I always find that fun. Once I've heard a song broken down, I always find it fun the next time I listen to the full production to kind of try to hone in on those things, whether it's a bass part, whether it's a guitar part. Anyway, my whole point in kind of showing you guys this stuff is just to give you an idea of how many layers actually go into to recording just a cool rock song. I think that there's sometimes this feeling or this sense that a band will decide on a Sunday to make a record this week, and on Monday morning they go in, they spend a half hour writing, and then they record, and by Tuesday morning their record's done. Not so, especially not with Sixxam. Sixxam can very, very easily take 6 months to a year to make a record, and I think by showing you this, you can kind of see why. There's so many layers of specific elements that go into every song, whether it's a simple ballad or whether it's a heavy rock song. And again, check out my video series, Fly on the Wall with James Michael, in case you're interested in going a little bit deeper into the production of this stuff, because I love it. As you can tell, I will sit here all night long and talk with you guys about how records are made, and I think that it's always a bit surprising and exciting to see this stuff revealed. And a lot of I've found in talking with people out on the road, when I explain to them what I do as far as being a producer and as far as being a mixing engineer, in addition to singing in a band, I always see their eyes kind of light up and this look of shock on their face, because like I said, I think most people assume that that it's a much quicker process. And sometimes it can be. There are certain bands that will go into a studio and set up everything live and just perform them live. And that's a great way of doing it as well. And maybe, who knows, maybe Sixxam will do that someday. But because our songs are pretty elaborate, the arrangements that we do are very elaborate, and as you can hear, they are multi-layered. It would be really tough to do that and be able to have any control over how the final mix turned out. So anyway, that gives you just a little idea of what happens here in the studio, and what goes into making Sixxam music. So I hope you found that kind of interesting. And now I'm going to look down here at some of these questions and take some questions from you guys. Ooh, hey Hasako, how you doing? It's great to actually hear from you guys and see some of these names popping up, because after taking about a month off from social media, I've missed you. So it's good to be back. Do we have any questions here while I'm sitting here? And it doesn't have to be about this song. It can be about anything. Let me see if I can read some questions here. Are you doing any touring or live shows this year? The reason I'm turning my head is because my phone is sideways. Actually, I think that we've got we have a couple of private shows that we're doing this year. I know of one private show in particular. We're doing something with Sebastian, which is going to be fantastic. But that's a private show. For the better part of 2017, we're going to be off of the road, primarily because, well, for a number of reasons. Last year, as you know, we were on the road a lot, but we also released 2 records in 1 year. I got to tell you, we're exhausted. I mean, we are creatively very inspired right now, because, being out on the road can be very inspiring, but physically, and mentally, we're pretty beat. And so it's so great for us to all be able to, like Nikki's over in Germany right now, really getting back into photography, which is so awesome. I told him that when he started pulling his cameras back out again on this last tour, we were all just encouraging him to do that because he's such a gifted photographer. So it's been a lot of fun to see him digging back into that so wholeheartedly and passionately. So we're all excited to see what comes of his next phase of photography. And the same thing with DJ and I is, to finally be off of the road for a little bit, and be able to take a little break, just to get recharged has just been invaluable. Because after, and think about this, both Nikki and DJ had spent several years prior to this last couple of years of touring with, obviously Motley Crue and Guns N' Roses. So these guys have been on the road a long time. So it's really nice to see them, see them relaxing, and I'm having a blast. Let's see. Here's another one. I'm going to just go sideways here for a second. What makes a song pop out to you? Helicopters seemed like a break. Okay. Well, that was a question about what makes a song, I guess, jump out at me, and it referenced Helicopters, which, thank you for referencing that. That Helicopters, I actually wrote that song about 15 years ago. And it was, I wrote and recorded it, and never did anything with it. It was, I always loved that song, and I had played it for Nikki and DJ over the years, and we always thought, wow, that would be a great 6 a.m. song at some point, but we could never find the right record to put it on. I think that first we tried to put that song on This Is Gonna Hurt album, but then I ended up writing Skin, which we felt was such a strong addition to This Is Gonna Hurt, that Helicopters kind of went on the back burner again. And then again on Modern Vintage, I think for every record we pulled Helicopters out and looked at it and thought, not the right time yet. But what I loved about putting Helicopters at the end of Volume 2 was, to me, it's such a song about finality. It's a heartbreaking song to me personally, and it really deals with just that sheer desperation of wanting somebody back who has passed on. And I think maybe that's why for so long we ended up not putting it on a record, because that sentiment was pretty heavy, and we always, we don't shy away from heavy storylines, but I don't know, it never seemed like the right place to celebrate the sentiment of that song. And then when it came time to find the last song for Prayers for the Blessed, I especially as the producer of both of these records, I had spent so many thousands of hours in the studio, really, by myself in here, working on productions and working on arrangements, and just and so emotionally for me, the process of making these two records was very powerful. And I was emotionally exhausted at the end of it. And so as we started talking about a way to end the record, we all agreed that we needed to have a song that felt very final, not just final for the end of Volume 2, but I really looked at it as both of these records together were coming to an end. So we needed that final chapter, that final page, the end. And to me, the way that Helicopters grows and then starts to kind of fall apart at the end, it winds down at the end, and at the very end of the song, the last thing that you hear is the actual tape slowing down, the tape machine slowing down. And that's just an effect that was put on there, but symbolically to me, I visualized, after basically the almost year of being in this studio every single day working on this record, I visualized hitting the last note of that song, turning off the gear in the studio, shutting the lights off, and walking out. And that was, for me, as my journey in making these records, that was my moment that I was striving for nearly a year. And I'll tell you this, there was a day where that final note of Helicopters played. I hit stop, I shut off the lights to the studio, and I locked it, and I walked away, and I broke down in tears. It was an incredibly emotional time for me and for us. And making both of these records was very, very exciting. It was very, very exhausting. And I think that it shows. I think that the blood, sweat, and tears shows in just about every song on both of these records. And we all hope that you guys love them. And you know, I hope that these songs and these records, and you know, for us personally, I hope that some 6am music finds its way into your lives and becomes the soundtrack of your lives as it has for us. And I think that's the case, you know, having traveled around the world this last couple of years and meeting so many of you, that seems to be the message that I get from so many of you so often, is that these songs have found an important place in your life as well. And that's why we do this stuff. You know, that's why we write songs. That's why we look forward to touring. That's why we make records. You know, people have asked me, especially in these last few years, as the music industry has changed so dramatically, and you know, without getting too much into the business side of things, it's no secret that record sales across the board are down, because now streaming has basically taken over. You know, services like Spotify and Pandora and of course Apple Music, and I think that, you know, we're in a transitional stage where if you believe everything you hear, you would believe that rock and roll is dead, and there's probably a few other genres that are dead as well. And it's just not true. All we're dealing with is a changing of the guards. The delivery system is changing. And we're all getting there. We're gradually, you know, changing over from physical hard copies to being comfortable with streaming. I personally love streaming. Guys, if you don't stream music, this is my sales pitch to you. There's nothing to be afraid of. Go to one of these services, Apple Music, Spotify, Pandora, whatever it may be. Check it out, because the access to music is phenomenal. Yes, I know you don't get to hold a physical copy in your hands anymore, and you're right. That's a bummer. But we've got to embrace you know, these changes. If you want to keep on enjoying rock music or any kind of music, whatever kind of music you like, you're going to have to start streaming. So that is my plea to all of you. Do yourself a favor and check out streaming. Man, at the push of a button, you can access any song all the way back from your childhood, anything. It's so exciting. So, you know, and if you're not a streamer yet, well, go over to Spotify and stream some 6am music. How's that? That's a good way to start. So do that for yourself. You'll appreciate it. Okay, I'm gonna look at some more questions here. Sorry, I've just been rambling, and you guys are asking so many great questions, and they're just flying by. Data is expensive in Canada, so I'll stick with buying music. Okay, I hear you. I hear you. If you can't, you know, if you can't get into streaming yet, keep it in the back of your mind. It's great. Oh, you're saying you love the hair? You love the hair? Oh, really? Well, all right, cool. Yeah, I'm kind of digging it. I shaved the sides. Just going for a new look, you know. I think that's another thing. After being on the road for so long, you're like, man, I'm sick of looking at myself. So anyway, all right, another question. Could you tell? Let me see. Could you tell us about Ride in My Head? Pretty heavy subject. Oh yeah, let's talk about Ride in My Head. Great question. Ride in My Head. Well, the short answer, yes, it's a song about murder, and it's kind of a terrible subject. But you know, it's about a crime of passion, basically. And if you go back and listen to it and you listen to the lyrics, clearly this guy is standing over this body. and he has just done something regrettable in a fit of jealousy and rage. But it was, I mean, obviously it's written in fantasy. None of us have murdered anybody. But, you know, I think that we've all felt jealousy to a point of sheer and utter, you know, just crippling your ability to do anything because you're just so distraught or so bothered by something that you've discovered. And so that was really the underlying story of this song, is we just wanted to write a song about that emotion, about that just horrible, horrible jealousy that would make somebody do something so absurd. But then trying to find a way to still humanize this character. So the story behind Ride in My Head is that this guy is actually sitting in a jail cell, and he is aware of the fact that he's done something wrong. I don't think that he's assuming responsibility for it yet, because obviously I'm saying, you know, in the song I'm saying, I think the bridge of it is, it was worth it. So he's, you know, he feels that he was pushed to the point of only having one option of you know, how to handle this situation. Clearly it was the wrong option, and he will pay for it for the rest of his life. But you know, it moves on from just being a song about a jealous murder. It really is more about, you know, what drives the soul to that point of having it actually change who you are. You know, I would imagine that these jealous fits of rage, when you wake up that day, you're not thinking this is going to happen, and then your I guess unhealthy love for a person or something that they've done to you can make you snap. Well, my gosh, that's a scary thought when you think that somebody that could otherwise be a very rational human being could be driven by love to do something so awful, which does kind of raise the question, you know, about love and you know, should love have that much power over us? I can't answer that. Of course it does. So really, I don't know what to say about that song other than the fact that I love it, and it tries to make light of something, not in a way that you know, is celebrating that action, but certainly, you know, pointing out the fact that love can make us do some pretty awful things. I'm going to look at another thing. James, do you have any advice for my nephew Josh wanting to be a musician? He's 14 and he loves your music. Yeah. First off, thank you, Josh, for loving our music. That's awesome. You know, I started really young. I started when I was probably, I don't know, maybe 10 years old. I started taking piano lessons, maybe younger than that. And I'll be honest with you, Josh, I hated piano lessons for many years. I studied classical music for 8 years and hated it. Just about every day of those 8 years. But I became a very good piano player, and of course I learned the value of hard work and studying, and you remember that commercial a long time ago where the kid's playing piano, and it's that famous song, I can't remember what it is now, but all the rest of his friends are outside playing and this kid is inside playing, and that was me. You know, I spent all of my time somehow trying to become a rock star. You know, I just was so enamored by the artists that I grew up, you know, being so, you know, that had captured my imagination, and I wanted to do that. So I started with a piano. Then actually, no, I'm sorry. My very first instrument was drums. My great story about drums, which I'll tell you in a second. But the first instrument that I actually really studied hard was piano. So find an instrument and really commit to becoming as good as you can possibly be on that instrument. That's the first thing. So whatever you want to play, guitar, it's going to take a lot of practice, and don't be satisfied with just being good. Be great. Push yourself to be the best. You know, I've actually done that in everything that I've ever. I'm not saying that I've accomplished being the best at it, but I've always pushed myself to be the best, no matter what job it was. I had a paper out when I was a kid, and I was determined to be the best, have the best paper out on the planet. I flipped burgers, and I was determined to be the best burger flipper ever. I've loved every job that I've had, and I'm not kidding you. I've worked a lot of crazy, weird jobs, a lot of typical jobs, and I've loved every single job. I've been grateful for every single job that I've ever had. And I'm just very blessed that I was finally able to make a living doing something that I actually would do for free most of the time, because I truly love what I do now. And it's exciting to me, and it's a challenge, and I still, every single day, this is the truth, and this is, I'm not forgetting about you, Josh. This is, I'm a rambler. This all goes back to how you just have to work very hard at what you do. I am heading towards 50 years old now. I've been doing music for my entire adult life, and I'm not kidding you. Every single night, at the end of the night, I don't care if it's 2 or 3 in the morning, I get on YouTube and I go down rabbit holes trying to learn more about how to make music. I'll pick a genre of music that I don't know, and I'll start studying that. I spent the last couple of years just immersing myself in hip-hop, not just in the music, but how it's recorded. So educate yourself, get passionate about it, and get a little obsessive about it. We're all of us artists. We're obsessive. We're a bit nutty. Allow yourself to be a little bit nutty. I think that's part of it. Now, back to another bit of advice for any young musician wanting to start in the music business. I hope that one of your focuses is songwriting. It really should be. It's a very, very important part of this. Why? Because it is the one place where you can identify your uniqueness. It is the one place where you can display what's unique about you, your outlook on the world, how you feel about things. Nobody is ever going to look at things the way that you look at them. So that right off the bat means that you're special. It means that you have a unique outlook, and your ideas are no less important than mine. I've always said this. I think that every single person on this planet is a movie waiting to happen. I don't think anyone's life is more interesting than another person's life. I don't care if you live in a small town somewhere and you never leave that town, or if you're a world traveler. That's the amazing thing about emotion. That's the amazing thing about love. That's the amazing thing about us as human beings, is that each of our stories is worth telling. So if you're wanting to get into music, well then be a storyteller. So that would be my advice. Really work on writing songs. Learn how to write songs. Learn how to express yourself. Let me see another question here. What time is it right now? Oh, we got time. We got time. You guys got time? Let's see. How do you like your coffee, black or with milk? Black. Black. And I'll tell you what. Funny that you ask about coffee. Well, this is a weird story, but I'm going to tell it because it's relevant. I just went and had my teeth whitened. Can you see? Yeah, look how freaking white they are. I hate my teeth. But anyway, the reason I'm telling you this is I went to the dentist 2 days ago. Went to do this whitening procedure. One of the things they tell you is that you can't drink coffee for 2 days afterwards. Well, son of a bitch, I drink 8 cups of coffee before noon. So that just wasn't happening. But that's not the part of the story that's actually interesting. So I'm in the dentist's office, and I don't know if you've ever done this teeth whitening stuff, but they put these chemicals on your teeth, and they freaking burn right down to the nerve. So I got these chemicals on my teeth. I'm sitting there by myself, all this shit in my mouth, and I can't even talk because I got wires and all this stuff. And they leave, and they say, okay, this is just this is gonna be about 15 minutes here. Just leave this stuff on your teeth for 15 minutes. I'll come back and I'll check on you. Well, I'm not kidding you. After about 4 minutes, one of my nerves in my teeth just exploded, and it is literally the most painful thing I've ever felt from my neck up. And I started screaming like a baby. Nobody comes. And I've got this apparatus in my mouth. So I'm screaming, and shit's flying out of my mouth, all these chemicals. I finally stand up with this just massive headgear on, and I start pounding, just slamming on the wall, trying to make as much noise as I can, because I'm in so much pain. My eyes are just watering. Nobody's coming. Finally, finally, I make such a ruckus that they probably had to shut the whole office down. All of a sudden, I'm like standing there, just sweat dripping off of me. I'm crying, screaming. I can't form words because I got so much crap shoved in my mouth. This whole row of the entire staff of the dental office, my dentist, they're all standing there just going, what the heck is going on? And I can't explain to them that one of the nerves in my mouth is just on fire. Anyway, long story longer, got it solved. I will never whiten my teeth again. It was the worst experience of my life. And I have great dentists, so I love my dentist. It was not their fault. I just happen to have really sensitive teeth. Bad move. Okay, let's see here. I'm getting sidetracked with dental stories now. This is why I don't go to dentists. Exactly. Yeah. I'm done with the teeth cleaning. Okay, let's see here. No. Fun to see. I know so many of you guys. It's so fun to see these names on here. Where do you or the rest of the band? Oh, where do you or the rest of the band get ideas for songs? Well, that's a good question. It really comes, where do we get ideas for songs? Sometimes it's extremely personal. A song like Helicopters was extremely personal for me. Or a song like Skin was very, very personal for me. And obviously, we all bring song ideas in. All of these songs kind of, in some way, reflect something important about each of our lives. All the way back to the Heroin Diaries soundtrack. I think on that record, I had written a song for my solo record before Sixxam was even a thing. It was called Permission, and that song I had written about the death of my ex-father-in-law many years ago. And that was a really painful experience for me. So that song came out of that. It just depends. It depends on where the three of us are at in our lives, what we feel would be important to talk about. But there's never ever a shortage of subject matter for us to tackle. Also, as songwriters, you have to be observers of life. So a lot of times a song will start off about, an experience that one of us have had. But then as you start exploring that emotion, you start discovering that probably many people have had similar experiences, just with different circumstances. So that process is always exciting for us. Writing songs that mean something very, very specific to one of us or to all of us, and then can mean something very specific but different to the listener. I've said this before in interviews, and I've always loved this analogy. My father was a visual artist. He was a painter. And so as a kid, I would always go down to his art studio and just watch him stretch canvases and then just basically slop paint on the canvas for hours. It was, as a kid, looking up to your dad, who was basically a big kid, slopping paint on a canvas and then making these beautiful abstract images, which to him meant something, whether it was just a specific energy or whether it was an actual story. His art was very abstract, so you couldn't look at it and say, oh, that's a bowl of fruit and a bottle of water. It would be more of an emotion, because it was just abstract. It was shapes and stuff. So anyway, I was standing there one day watching him paint, and I remember very specifically at one point he would stop painting and he reached down and he picked up this little very fine paintbrush, dipped it in some black paint, and he signed his name at the bottom. And that was always my favorite time. And I remember this one time where I looked at him right as he signed that, and I said, "So, Dad, is this painting done?" And he, without missing a beat, he looked at me and goes, "Oh, no, James, it's just beginning." And I didn't know what that meant until really years later, when I realized that what he meant was his job was done. He had finished applying the paint to the canvas. But the emotional interpretation of that painting was going to go on forever, long after he was gone. So a painting, a song, a poem, a book, a sculpture, anything that is, a form of artistic expression is never final, in my opinion. It's always just existing to be interpreted and reinterpreted. It's the same way with music. When we finish a song, when I mix that last note of the record and send it off, our job is done. But now it's your job to absorb that song, absorb that message, explore it, take that journey, and allow that song to mean something special and unique and different to you and to only you. And that's what I love about what I do and what we do here, is that we're really just getting it started. We're taking it to the edge, and we're letting it roll down the hill. That's what's so exciting about songwriting. So, for instance, you take a song like "Life Is Beautiful," which at the time we wrote that song, now probably 12 or 13 years ago, we never in a million years dreamed that 10 years later, standing in Stockholm, Sweden, that some person would come up to us with tears in their eyes and pull up their sleeve and show us the entire lyric to "Life Is Beautiful" tattooed on their arm, and said, "This song, saved my I think it was my husband's life. He was addicted to drugs, and we were all looking for a sign of hope and some type of guidance and some type of inspiration to make that daunting journey of recovery seem a little more feasible, survivable." And to think that a song that had meant so much to us and had that kind of an impact on somebody else was the biggest gift that as a songwriter or as an artist you could ever receive. I can't tell you what that feels like, and that's been something that is, in Sixxam's world, that has occurred a lot. We have a lot of very, very courageous fans come up to us and tell us their story, and in some way tell us how a song that we've created has found its way into their lives and into their hearts, and that's why we do this, man. That is, without a doubt, why we do this. And that's why, I feel like I'm one of the luckiest people in the world. Number one, to be sitting here talking with you guys, and I'm assuming, I know for a fact, because I've seen some of the names and I recognize these names, you guys are all around the world. And the fact that something that we sat in this room and made up has brought us all together is that's bigger than any of us. And I just love that. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that I can sit here and have these chats with you guys. I'm so grateful. We are so grateful that you have been so supportive of Sixxam for the last 10 years. Not a lot of fans would stick with a band for that long, especially when the band wasn't touring and you weren't really sure what was going to happen. So I got to tell you, we do not take that lightly, and we do not take that for granted, and that's why we do what we do. Anyway, I know I didn't answer a lot of questions, and I know that I've rambled on, and you guys won't need to see me for a long time now. You're so sick of me, but I enjoy this. I always do. I want to remind you guys that we do have, we have 2 records right out now, Volume 1 and Volume 2, Prayers for the Blessed and Prayers for the Damned, that we're so proud of. And I hope that you guys like these records. It seems like you do, and I invite you to, like I said, I invite you to by whatever means. Go to Spotify, check out We Will Not Go Quietly, but then at some point go back and listen to the Heroin Diaries soundtrack if you haven't heard that. Go back and listen to This Is Gonna Hurt. Get to know our music a little bit better, and we'll keep at it. So that's about all for today. I appreciate all of you guys coming and hanging out with me here, and I hope it was at least somewhat interesting. And anyway, I miss all of you. Thank you if you came out and saw us this year on the road. We had a blast. We are absolutely enjoying some downtime, but we do miss you, and hope to see you guys soon. So that's it. Peace out.